I'm telling ya, it's Lovin' Joe, but better. It's better. Hi guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I found out about this show on Tumblr. It just happened to show up while I was scrolling. I started it immediately because I remember the ancient text. And about halfway through episode 1, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I have to make a video about this. So here we are. This is gonna be full recap of all 8 episodes. It's a quick little mini series, very bingeable. Spoilers. So I loved it. I have thoughts on the ending, but I did love it. So let's get into it. We get a time card telling us today, and a person dressed all in black is like skulking through an apartment, only to discover something really disgusting in the bathroom. There is a body heavily decomposed in the bathtub. They run out and pull the fire alarm and alert the whole building. Then we flash back to 56 days ago. We meet our girl Sierra first, spelled with a C, not an S. I'm a little disappointed. Eggie, if you're watching, I know you are too. She's played by my girl Dove Cameron, and she looked so pretty in this, I can't. It's a very laid back apartment, kind of messy, kind of run down. There's like a very effortlessly cool vibe to her appearance, and she's got a little NASA tote bag. Follow her to the grocery store to pick up her lunch for the day, and while she's there, we see a very handsome Avon just creeping on her through the freaking halls of the grocery store. It's giving that scene in season 2 of You where Joe meets love for the first time. Was all I could think about. I was like, I see why people are making the comparisons, and we're 5 minutes in. He's watching her almost instantly, and we keep catching glimpses of him from her periphery, but she's kind of like out of touch, not paying attention to him. They bump into each other at the front of the store, and she panics when that happens and is like, oh god, I grabbed the wrong drink, bye, and runs away from him. So he waits outside and fabricates another meet cute. It goes better this time, and they bond over their mutual love of space because he compliments her tote bag. She agrees to go with him for coffee and then gives him her number. They're both new to the city. This is set in Boston, by the way, and it is supposed to be February, yet there is not a drop of snow to be seen. They make plans to go see a space movie together because they're little nerds, and he suggests that they try out this new bar that he's heard about but he hasn't gone to yet because they're both new, so they want to explore together and get to see where everything is. We also learn that she works in tech and he works in architecture. Then we cut to the cops, our freaking lovely platonic soulmates. Their names are Carl and Lee, and I am obsessed with them. A lot of people didn't like this subplot apparently, but I thought that they were really wholesome. And as far as like filler arcs go in a story, because something had to keep us going back to the present, right, while they're trying to figure out the crime that happened, I liked them. I thought they were very interesting and funny, and there was a lot of good scenes. The first introduction to them is her like picking him up from his house, and he's like hungover from the night before, wearing the same outfit he wore on his date. She's picking on him, stealing his food. Like, they're very comfortable with each other, and I thought it was really nice. They head to the apartment to start investigating things now that a body has been found. That happens to be Oliver's apartment because we cut back to him getting ready for his date with Sierra, and he's showering and like in the same bathroom where we know the body is gonna end up. He's a little late getting to the bar to see her, but he's super apologetic about it, so she forgives him really easily. As they get taken to their table, however, the hostess is like, it's really great to see you back again, and like a little flirty nice to him, and Sierra is immediately like, I'm sorry, what? So immediately she's like, hey man, you said you only read about this place. Why are we lying? Why are we lying? We just met. Why are you already doing that? And he's like, oh God, I hoped you wouldn't clock that. Oopsie. I just wanted to make it seem like we were learning things together. I thought it would be more fun if it was like a surprise for both of us. She's clearly a little annoyed, but she lets it slide since it's like the first thing he's done, although he was also late. So like that's 2 strikes in my opinion. But all things considered, they have like a really nice conversation. It's a nice first date. There's another moment where she says she's glad that he picked this place because she's seen it a few times and now she knows what it looks like from the inside. And he's like, oh, so you like secrets? And she's like, no, I like reveals. I like discovering things. I think secrets are fucking destructive. Yes, ma'am. Clock his ass. This is the moment I started to think that she was playing him back. She's just too self-aware. And on an acting note, since she's a Disney girl, Dove is obviously very good at playing the like sparkly, really happy, bubbly character. And there was just something off about it here. because she was doing that with him. She was, you know, twirling her hair and batting her eyelashes and flirting with him, but something was off. I was like, something's wrong. There was just something really calculated to her choices. Like, she was trying to get him to believe she was believing him. And your girl knows a man-eater when she sees one, okay? I know your game, girl. They missed the movie because they talk too long, and he doesn't like to rush. So he's like, can we rain check that and do it some other time? She agrees, and then he panics around then and has to like rush off to the bathroom. He has a freak out phone call with his psychiatrist where he's like, I think I'm doing it again, Dan, and I don't know what I'm gonna do if you don't answer the phone. And then on his way out of the bathroom, he passes a lady with red hair, and she is terrified of him. She like backs up and gets out of his way and is really scared, and he just brushes past her, not giving a fuck. He gets them an Uber and then kisses her while they're waiting for the Uber, immediately apologizing because he just kind of grabbed her mid-sentence and started smooching. But she says it's okay, she wanted to kiss him, no big deal at all. He seems unsettled by himself. He's unsettling me. I don't trust his ass, but he's unsettled by his own behavior. So he puts her in the Uber and she's like, are you sure you don't want to share? And he's like, no, I'm gonna walk home. And then he just sends her off. In the downtime between their dates, Sierra calls her sister, who she told us already she's very close to. The sister is still living in their small town in Rhode Island where they're from. It's clear things are a little funky at home. There's some tension with the mom and the sister. They seem to be from like a rougher part of town. The mom has a drinking problem. And the sister says, I had to hide the car at the grocery store down the street because people kept, you know, finding it and then saying things. So that's suspicious. That's weird. Sierra doesn't tell her about Oliver. And the sister's like, you know, it's fine. Whatever secrets you're keeping, you're only keeping them because you know that we'd be upset with you if you told me. We check in with Oliver and he's getting a new ID, and for some reason the last names don't match. I wrote down a note that says, we also learned he has a brother, but they aren't close at all. That's true because the brother never comes up again. We never talk about the brother ever again. Okay? At work, he seems to be like very good at his job, but he's super paranoid. That's like overarching thing with him. My man's is always checking over his shoulder. He's twitchy as hell. Like, something's not normal there. We see who we can assume is his boss's wife come into the office, and when he sees her, he gets like hella nervous. It's just super weird about lots of little things. They have their movie date and it's going really well until Oliver laughs during one of the shuttle explosions. You know, like when the real life shuttle explodes on the screen and everybody thinks that the person died, Oliver just laughs in the middle of the silent movie theater. Sierra calls him out on it because that's the one thing. She stays calling him out on his weirdness. Like, anytime he's a freak, she's like, what was that? But he insists that he only laughed because, like, you know that the person got out of it, so it's like this dramatic thing that happens, but it didn't really happen. It's like funny that everybody was worried about it. And she can't figure out why that would be because, like, no sane person would laugh at that. On the topic of jumping out of spacecraft, he asks if she's been skydiving before, and she's like, no. He says he hasn't either, but he knows a way to feel a similar rush. And she's like, LOL, are you gonna push me off a building? And he's like, no, you're gonna love it, come with me. He takes her to an active construction site, so unsafe, and then turns on one of like the giant industrial fans so she can like be blown back by it and like feel the sensation of skydiving while like still being on the ground. They have like a cute little over the edge of the Titanic moment together. He ends up kissing her again, but then he like immediately shoves his hand down her top. Just immediately, there ain't no boundaries in sight. He doesn't have any. They go back to his apartment and he pushes her up against the wall again. He's very aggressive with his affection, okay? That unsettles me. It's just unsettling to watch. And she like playfully pushes him away from her, but you can tell that he's just like, stop pushing me away. Like, there's just really spooky tension in him. Like, the look on his face is giving hunter stalking prey. Okay. She wanders through the apartment, kind of looking around. It's way fancier than her apartment. He's much wealthier than she is. He asks, is this what you thought it would be like? And she goes, your apartment? And he goes, no, take off your jacket. She's sort of frozen while he monologues about how they could waste time on drinks and small talk, but they both know they'd just be thinking about what happens next, and then they hook up. I'm not a fan of spicy scenes in media because so often they feel irrelevant to the plot and like they add nothing, and it's like, why are we doing this? The ones in this show, so good, guys, because they feel like the tension is there, they're unsettling. It's great. But while they're hooking up, we get like this zoom in moment on Sierra's face, and she's super like out of her body. You can tell that she's disassociating, and that just doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel like how that's supposed to go down. So you're wondering, why? Afterwards, he's lying awake in bed and she asks about this like jagged scar that's over his ribs. He won't tell her what happened, only that it was a long time ago. She falls asleep and wakes up to him doing extremely intense yoga and breath work out in a different part of the house in the living room. In the morning, she wakes up to find him already fully dressed in the kitchen with her jacket like folded meticulously on the end of the bar. Psycho behavior. Psycho, but he's such a control freak, and there's so many little details like that they wove in where like while you're watching it, you're like, what is wrong with him? Like, why is he this way? What's going on? Something's not right. She says that she slept well and then is like, what about you? And he's like, oh, I don't sleep. You know, I don't know how anybody sleeps in this world. This world is so awful and scary and bad, and everybody's fighting all the time, and everybody's like on fire, and the world's awful and terrible, and I hate it here, and I want to leave. Putin should just drop the bomb already. Like, what's he waiting on? Dude, a no would have been plenty. He asks her to stay for coffee and breakfast, but after the Putin should drop the bomb joke, she's like, yeah, I think I need to leave, actually, but thank you so much. He tells her how to get out of the apartment and that he will call her, and then pushes her up against the bar and goes down on her anyway. Boundaries who? He doesn't know them. Our lovely detectives are investigating. We get the beginning of a small subplot where the hookup from the night before that he was saying he was hungover from, she posted videos on TikTok with his gun. So that's not good. He's definitely gonna get in trouble for that. Lee sort of relentlessly picks on him about this. This is like how their dynamic works. He is a mess and she picks on him about being a mess. And then he's like, haha, at least you love me anyway. And she's like, haha, I do. And that's like how things work between them. But now the older they get, the more tired he gets. He also has a son and like a failed divorce looming over his head. So he feels like he's just tired of all of this and he wants to stop and leave the city behind. And she's like, stop being my partner, what? And so that freaks her out because then it's like maybe they're gonna have to break up and she'll have to find somebody else, and that would be horrible. Inside the apartment, they find Sierra's green coat and items that we saw inside her apartment, which would imply that they moved in together in those 56 days. On her way home, Sierra runs into that lady with the red hair that Oliver like bumped into at the bar, and she stops her and wants to talk to her. She says, I saw you coming from the crossings. I know you were with Oliver. You need to be careful. He's not who you think he is. Sierra lies and is like, he's exactly who I think he is. We went to college together. The lady is like, no, I'm warning you. You really need to be careful. He's dangerous. And Sierra's like, yeah, okay, you sound like a freak. And then like walks away from her, but turns around and sneakily takes pictures. As she scrolls her phone, we see that she's actually taken pictures of quite a lot of things, including lots of stuff at his house. She pulls out a notebook and it is full of little details and scribblings, including all those bullshit facts she fed him about NASA. Our girl doesn't know shit about space. She was lying. She adds the lady's name to the list, which is Jane, by the way, and then we flash back to the day one situation, watch her get ready again. This time, she's talking to herself, practicing her lines, being like, oh yes, I'm Sierra. I'm from such and such. I just moved to this city. It's so nice to meet you. She also has a fake ID, so now we have proof that she's investigating him. I'm telling ya, it's Love and Joe, but better. It's better. Episode 2 picks up right there. We follow her back to the grocery store, although this time it's obvious that she's trying to get his attention. Episode 2 picks up right there. We follow her back to the grocery store, still in her POV this time, and so it's obvious that she's trying to get his attention. She's like pulling her sleeves down so that her shoulders are bare, tossing her hair, just all kinds of little seductive things to get him to look at her while she's walking around the store. When she like flirts with him and gives him her number and stuff, we see her flirting and smiling and laughing, and then when she turns away from him, her look just goes completely deadened and she's like sick of it. Our man Oliver is looking into Sierra and he's finding very little information about her because now, as we know, she doesn't exist. We learn that he's working for his dead dad's college best friend named Elliot, who is a sweet, sweet man. I really loved him. I was immediately worried his ass was gonna die. I was like, did he end up in the tub? Why would you do that? The investigation continues in the present day, but the body is so decomposed because they used heat and chemicals, and it's been there for who knows how long, so it's very hard to determine anything about it, like sex or cause of death or time of death or anything. The autopsy is gonna take forever and a day because that shit is in pieces. They find drugs near the bed, like suspicious liquid stuff in a bottle with a syringe, and there's a lot number on it, so they can at least track that a little bit. It's so interesting to watch them sort of piece together their version of events while we're also watching the backwards timeline. So they're seeing Sierra's stuff in one room, Oliver's stuff in another, realizing the discrepancy in wealth and thinking like, oh, so maybe they were roommates and she started sleeping with him to like make her life better. By day 9, back in the past, Sierra is like waiting for Oliver to reach out again, and so she starts sending him like sexy little pictures trying to get his attention. It works. That man is weak. He's a boy. Her sister calls while she's doing this and leaves a voicemail for Megan, asking her to please call their mother because she developed some old pictures and now she's going down a rabbit hole. We see the mom looking at the pictures and they include 2 little girls and a very obvious brother. The pictures work, and so she gets that second date with Oliver. She goes to meet him for lunch, and when she gets to the table, she like lays down on it. He catches her and he's like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm just tired. I guess I need a nap. He sits and does the predator stalking prey look across the table, commenting that he likes her dress. She's like, thinks it's 90s vintage, and he starts monologuing about like all the places the dress went before it ended up on her body today, while she messes with him under the table. Little freaks. They are full stop broad daylight in public. I love Crazy v. Crazy so much. Incredible work from both of you. 10 out of 10. He pays for lunch in cash and she's like, why are we doing that, homie? You don't trust the banks? And he's like, of course I don't trust the banks. Of course I don't trust credit cards. What are you talking about? She asks where he keeps his money then, and he's like, don't worry about that. I keep it safe. She agrees that she doesn't like being watched, so she kind of gets where he's coming from. And he's like, yeah, is that why you're not on social media? I looked you up, babe. You don't have anything. No Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok, no nothing. She lies and says that she used to be online, but then a guy stole her sister's identity and it spooked her so bad that she deleted everything. And he's like, that's an extreme answer for something that didn't happen to you. Also, babe, it's not just socials. You're like not on the internet at all. I looked. And she's just kind of like, well, I guess my life's just not very notable. He wants to bring dinner to her place and she's like, no, oh my God, your apartment is so much better than mine. Let's just stay there. And he's like, I don't care. I want to see where you live. I'm coming over. And then he pushes her up against the wall again and kisses her some more. They get honked at because they're just, again, in broad daylight making out on the side of the street. I feel like nobody would really care, but you know, they get honked at. And so she drags him into the alley and they hook up in the alley. She practically runs away from the encounter and he's like, I'm seeing you later for dinner. And she's like, okay, sounds good. And then sprints to her house and has to like frantically clean up because her house is a freaking investigation zone of all the shit she's been hiding from him. She already had termites in one location, so she starts like making the holes worse in her house and putting them around the apartment to make sure he'll see them. While investigating, Carl catches Lee talking to this random kid in like a fancy red sports car situation, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, he goes so far as to write down the license plate and take pictures of the car, and when she comes over to him, he's like, who the fuck was that? And she's like, just some kid who sells pills to the people in the apartment complex. I thought maybe he'd know something, but he didn't, so waste of a time. She says it was a tip from other people in the apartment complex, and he's like, a tip I didn't know anything about? I don't believe you. They're starting to put together that somebody went through a lot of trouble to get rid of that body, but then there's all these other things around the apartment that don't make sense. Like there's fresh, dry cleaned clothes waiting on the counter. Everything feels a little staged. The landlord, Kevin, who is a giant idiot. Oh my God, he was so funny, guys. He was so funny. Excellent comedic relief. He finally shows up with more information on Oliver. It took him forever to get it. He was really dragging his feet. Oliver shows up at Sierra's apartment with flowers and dinner, just like he promised. The second she opens the door, he is on her, kissing her. This man's affection style is a lot. She has to kind of pick at him to admit that her apartment is more than a little sketchy because he's trying to be nice. They go back to talking about ghosts and how the place feels haunted, and he like brings up things that she has specifically said before, just showing that he literally remembers like every little thing she says. She launches into a big story about how when she was little, she wanted to live in a real haunted house because then maybe the ghosts would be her friends because she was always so lonely and she didn't feel like she had anybody. Whenever he gets suspicious, she like covers with a big story, and it makes me nervous every time because I'm like, baby, he is listening to you. That man is paying attention, and you are gonna get caught because he is gonna put shit together and then he's gonna make things up where they don't make sense. You need to stop. He tries for sex again, but she runs off to the bathroom to give him time to snoop, and the second she closes the door, he's like, yes, and he starts looking around at everything. He's looking at the books on her shelves, the stickers on her water bottle, and then he straight up goes to her bag, almost finding the journal. We cut to Oliver's boss's house. Kind of randomly, his wife is decluttering. She warns him about Oliver and says that they shouldn't forget who he really is. She thinks that Elliot should just fire him and not let his friendship with Oliver's dad taint the family business and make them complicit in Oliver's family's cover-up. Elliot is like, he's a good kid, you're overreacting, you need to cool it. She reminds him that Oliver will probably leave them since he moves around whenever the past catches up. He's clearly erratic and unstable. It's not fair to them or his colleagues, but Elliot is like, please just let it go, okay? I love the kid, I'm not getting rid of him. In the morning, Sierra fakes a phone call from her landlord. She like sets an alarm on her phone so that it fake rings, and then she pretends that they are gonna kick her out for like 3-ish weeks so they can get rid of the termites. Oliver immediately offers to let her stay with him. She brushes it off, saying that she couldn't possibly ask that of him. They just met. And he's like, whatever, it's just a few weeks, who cares? Say yes. And so she does. He makes a joke here where it's only 3 weeks, so by the time she finally hates him, it'll be over. They just be telling on themselves every time. They talked about past relationships, only of hers. We know nothing of his past at this point, okay? My man has been tight-lipped on everything. But she told him about a boyfriend named Tyler, and so he brings that up in this moment. And he's like, am I the new Tyler? Falling for you too fast? And she's like, yes. And I'm gonna get you. And then he goes, not if I get you first. No, but I love it. I love it. We follow Oliver home where he gets a letter with the name Oliver St. Ledger written on it. The envelope is empty, but that does not stop him from having a complete and total freak out. At the same time, Sierra is at home Googling St. Ledger Ventures. Oliver finally gets in touch with Dan, his therapist, and tells him about the letter and how much it scared him. He feels like he should have just thrown it away instead of in a panic like opening it, and he's paranoid that if somebody was watching and they saw him react to it, he gave himself away. The paranoia is real strong with him. He admits to seeing Sierra and says that he knows it's probably too soon, but he really likes her, and Dan is like, you know, it's not necessarily too soon, but it could be pretty stressful to try to have a physical relationship with her while you're keeping your emotions out of it. Dan says that he knows how lonely Oliver is, but he also knows he has such an intense desire to protect himself, so what would be best is for him to burn the letter and break up with her. Instead, Oliver burns the letter and asks Sierra if she's ready to move in. Sierra agrees, so she's gonna start moving in that night, and then she calls home to check on her mother finally, and they talk. The mom is not doing well. Sierra is like, I need you to just hold on for a little bit longer. We're not gonna lose the house. Just tell me how much money you need, and I will get it to you by the end of the month. Her mom is like, oh, how are you gonna do that? You're just making promises you can't keep. I don't trust you, and I never have. Sierra just brushes off the fact that her mom is essentially calling her a little freak. She is one. And she says that people owe them for what happened to them, and she's gonna make them pay. I told you I was worried that Elliot was gonna be the one that was dead in the bathtub, but he's alive in the present day. We see him talking to the cops. Turns out something happened to his wife, though. He had no idea about the body in the apartment, so now he's terrified that Oliver is dead. Interestingly, he gives info about Oliver, but he doesn't say what happened in his past. He kind of talks to Lee as if he's not aware of what the before Boston timeline was, even though we know he knows. He just says that he saw him a few weeks ago, and then he just quit coming into work, and he doesn't know what happened to him. The medicine that they found beside the bed was stolen from a hospital. So if Oliver isn't the one that's dead, he could be in terrible danger. And that really scares Elliot. It's very obvious that he meant it when he said he cared about Oliver, so he starts sort of spilling the beans a little bit. But then Carl shows up, and he always plays the bad cop in these situations, so Lee has been nice to him and has been like gently getting information out of him. And Carl shows up and is like, I can tell you're lying. We can tell you're lying about this. What do you mean you didn't see him for weeks? You saw him recently, didn't you? You saw him right before this happened. Just tell us the truth. So then they start antagonizing each other, and Lee is like, can you knock it off? He's sensitive. But Carl goes so far as to insinuate that the wife's accident maybe wasn't an accident, and Elliot is like, go fuck yourself, and then leaves. Sierra moves in fully with Oliver, and we get another dissociative sex scene where she seems a little out of it. This time, when they go to bed, Oliver apologizes about the fact that he might get up in the middle of the night, and he's like, I'll try really hard not to wake you this time. They talk about work a little bit, and she's like, why'd you become an architect if you don't really like it? And he's like, well, I needed to do something. When I was little, you know, I wanted to be an astronaut, but he says it just didn't work out. Maybe he was never meant to wear the meatball. She goes, what's the meatball? And he's like, the meatball? Like the logo on the spacesuit? She's like, I've never heard anybody call it the meatball. And he flips. He's like, everyone calls it that? What do you call it? How do you not know about this? It's a basic fact. That one really got me. So she turns it into a joke, and she's like, oh my god, of course I know the fucking meatball. What's wrong with you? You sound scary. You should have seen your face. Who do you think I am? But oh my god, when I tell you, it really freaked his ass out, and he got real scary real quick. 0 to psychopath in like 30 seconds. Lovely shot of Sierra putting like milky oils in her bath that mirror the medicine that's in the bottle by Oliver's bed that he might use on her or might use on himself. We don't know yet. She comes to bed, and he's still got his scary evil face on, but he quietly uses the syringe on himself. That's interesting as hell, because it means that he feels comfortable enough with her to actually go to sleep. She's totally awake though. So now she's the one tiptoeing through the house trying not to wake him. She goes and gets her notebook from her room in the house, and she planted like some stuff on it so if he moves it, she'll be able to tell. And then we see her go into his closet and start trying to break into his safe. Episode 3 starts with her trying to wake him up, and he's coming out of that like drug coma that he put himself in. So he's all dizzy and disoriented, and she's like, what is this? What's going on? What did you take? Like showing him the syringe. And he's like, it's just my medicine. It's just for sleep. Oh, okay. Do you use it to sleep all day or what? Because it's almost 4, which means he missed that big meeting at work that he was stressed about. He is kind of forced to explain that he got it from a doctor. It's completely legal. His insomnia is really extreme. He like fully doesn't get the hormones required for his body to get tired, so he will just stay up constantly. This is partially where his paranoia comes from, because after like 3 to 4 days, he just starts hallucinating shit. She asks what could possibly have him so anxious, and I was like, well, he might be evil. There might be demons living in him. But he just says it's normal life stuff, you know, regrets, etc. And she's like, what the fuck do you regret that much? And he's like, I gotta go call Elliot. We cut back to Lee trying to talk to Elliot again, and he is refusing to have anything to do with her now, but as he is like pushing her away, he says, leave Ollie alone. And so she goes back to Carl and she's like, yes, it worked. He said leave Ollie alone, which would imply that he's alive. Oliver and Sierra walk to work together, and she tells him this story about having like a competition with a guy that she used to work with of who could stay up the most consecutive nights in a row. And she's like, I won, obviously, because I was lying and I was taking little naps in between when we checked in with each other, but this idiot actually stayed up and it almost killed him. He's like, oh, is it somebody from your company now? And she's like, no, it's this place back home called Dell's Lemonade. He knows that store, so she's clearly just planting more red strings for him. Jane is once again waiting for her, like watching her business, and Oliver sees her this time. He gets spooked by the fact that she's there waiting, and Sierra's like, I don't know, she seems weird, just ignore her, like it doesn't matter. They agree to meet later that night, and so he leaves, and she storms over to Jane immediately. Jane tries to talk to her, but Sierra brushes past her and is like, you need to stay away from me. Then she goes into the building just to sneak out the back. The cops go over the surveillance footage with Kevin, and Carl is really hard on him, like from the very beginning. He's like, you know, I just think you're suspicious. I think you're just not telling me everything that happened. Where Kevin is kind of awkward, so you can't tell if he's lying or if he's just nervous. They see Sierra in the elevator with Oliver moving in her stuff, and then they show Kevin the footage of the guy pulling the fire alarm, and the person in the video is wearing like really tight black pants, and Carl like looks down at Kevin, who's also wearing really tight black pants, and looks back up at him like, that's strange. It's starting to look like Kevin found the body, and maybe he doesn't know anything, but he panicked and doesn't want to get in trouble, so he's hiding stuff. Sierra calls her sister again. Her name's Shyla, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that yet, but Shyla and Sierra are on the phone. They confirm they have a dead brother. She tells Shyla that she might have access to the St. Ledger funds, and Shyla's starting to put all the pieces together, but she's terrified. We get a cute scene of Elliot and Oliver talking about how much Oliver reminds him of his dad and how he controls a room just like him. There's lots of like affection there between them. And then Oliver shows up at Sierra's work and calls her like, hey baby, I'm downstairs. My boss lent me his car so I can help you move the rest of your stuff. Come down. She's not at work because she don't work there. So she has to sprint all the way from across town. She races back through the building and then comes out like the elevator room so it looks like she came down the hallway with everybody else. When she gets to him, she's been running so hard that she falls, and he makes a huge scene to keep her from being embarrassed. The car that Elliot lent them is really nice, and so Sierra comments on that, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Elliot kind of like loved my dad, like in a non-platonic sense of the word. So he really likes taking care of me. She tells him about how poor her family is back home, and he's like, well, that doesn't matter now. You're never going back there. She laughs about how silly he was in the lobby and like looks over at him all affectionately, and it's just like, who are you? And he just gets really serious and goes, who do you think I am? A crazy person, baby, a crazy person. That's what it's giving right now. Whenever she notices him do that little flip thing with his personality, she just distracts him with sex. So she goes down on him in traffic. The detectives find a silver stud earring in the tub. They discuss the new photos of the person in the lobby. Their boss calls Lee to ask what the hell is going on with Elliot because now fancy lawyers are calling and he's trying to sue them. Lee is like, oh God, it's really not that big of a deal. We're not going to talk to him anymore, I promise. Surely he'll leave it alone. And their boss is like, yeah, whatever. Also, here's that information that Carl requested about that license plate. And Lee's like, what license plate? And the boss is like, oh, you know, the license plate of Linus Finch, the local drug dealer. We have pictures of him riding shotgun in your car. Lee is like, oh, do you? Okay. And her boss is like, you need to think very carefully about what you're going to tell me about this. Mid moving in montage, Sierra checks in with Oliver to be like, are you really sure this is okay? Like, it's so crazy. We're moving so fast. And he says, I don't even know what that word means anymore. He makes dinner, and as she gets ready for bed, we see her silver stud earring on the counter. Down in the mailroom, Oliver gets another letter with Oliver's St. Ledger written on it, this time with a phone number inside. So he immediately calls it, having a panic attack in the mailroom. Buddy, we just talked about this. You said I shouldn't have done that in public. I should have gone upstairs. I should have handled it in private. Where's your paranoia now, babe? This sends him into another no sleep bender. So we see days 12 to 16 go by without a minute of sleep because he's out of his medicine. When he finally goes out to get a refill, he sees the lady in blue behind him, and then next to him, and then in front of him, and then on his other side. So he's hallucinating. He's in traffic behind the wheel of the vehicle, okay? So he does try to like deep breath his way out of it. He can tell it's not real, but also he can't because she is a real lady. So now he's very confused. I really liked the fact that he was so self-aware of his hallucinations because you could like see him fighting himself throughout the show, and that was a nice layer. So Oliver goes to Dan in person and tells him he's out of his medicine. Dan warns him that he's burning through it really fast, and Oliver's like, well, it's the only thing that works. I don't have any other choice. He also lies and says that he broke up with Sierra. Dan tells him that that's great, that was an awesome choice. Now he needs to stop feeding into the stalker delusions and just burn everything, throw the letter away, ignore her. He gives him a dosed chocolate bar that's like stronger than what he normally gives him and refills his medicine. Oliver explains to him that a lady with red hair is stalking him and he is sure of it. Dan is like, oh buddy, you know who that sounds like, right? And Oliver flips. He's like, oh, okay. So now I'm just crazy and haunted by the women of my past. And I see them everywhere. Yeah, okay. I'm not the stalker here. I'm the victim. Someone has identified me and they are clearly targeting me. It's giving paranoid mania, okay? It's not looking good for him. This was like almost funny because it's like clearly he struggles with this paranoia stuff, and so I don't want to laugh at him, but also he's right, and because he's done this before, nobody believes him. Joke's on him. We cut back to the house where Sierra is snooping through his stuff. She finds the bank info that has Oliver's trust in it. She's able to break in using the info that she's collected from his family, but unfortunately it can't be accessed, so she's not able to steal directly from it over the phone. The cops are also going through the mail and they find that letter with Ollie St. Ledger written on it. Their boss brings Carl in and she's like, hey, you should see these pictures that I found, and shows him the stuff of Lee with the drug dealer, and he's like, okay, there's gotta be a reason. And so he agrees to try to talk to her so that he can get the story out. Lee does seem to be kind of spiraling and freaking out, so she's not looking too good on the suspicion front. And then when Carl comes back to her, he immediately shows her the pictures and she's like, great, cat's out of the bag. He's so funny though when he shows her the pictures. He's like, girl, what the hell was that man doing in your car? In my seat? Rude. She says that she can't tell him what's going on because she doesn't want to lie to him, but she has been for a very long time, and she needs him to let her do it for one more day because they need to get through this investigation. Once he knows the truth, he's not gonna forgive her. And he's like, my dude, how bad is it? And she says, really bad. So bad that when you quit your job and leave, I will never see you again. So she begs for one more normal day between them, and he is distraught, so concerned, but he agrees. We cut to Oliver's family home where we see a little boy watching very violent cartoons. So I guess he does have a brother. I lied. This is the one time we see the little brother, and he's watching just horrific cartoons. And then we watch his mom call the bank and be like, hey, I just got a text from you guys saying to rate my service, but I haven't called. What's going on? We do see Kevin run into Oliver inside the building, but it's like very casual. So it's still looking like maybe Kevin knew him, but didn't know him very well. Inside the apartment, Sierra is trying to break into the safe again, and when Oliver comes home, he catches her in the closet. But when he asks her what she was doing, she's just like, oh, nothing, and then takes off her robe to get in the shower, once again like distracting him, so they hook up again. The cops have finally put the facts together on who Oliver actually is, so while they have sex in the shower, we hear like a voiceover of Lee explaining things. She tells us that Oliver is Oliver St. Ledger, son of billionaire venture capitalist Casper St. Ledger. They're from Rhode Island, which is where Sierra's family lives. He's 33 and disappeared after dodging multiple arrests. He goes by several aliases, and he's sometimes referred to as the Narrow River Killer. In the morning, Sierra's wearing one of Oliver's shirts, and he's like, oh, is that why you were in my closet last night? And she's like, mm-hmm. And he's like, because if you were trying to break into the safe, it's not mine. It's been here, since I moved in. I don't have the combination for it, and I don't know what's in there. She lies, and she's like, why would I be trying to break into your safe? Also, why were you gone at 5:30 in the morning? And he's like, therapy. So now there's like weird tension between the two of them. She wants to come to his office for lunch, but he blows her off. The minute he's gone, she starts messing around with his email and bank info, and she's actually able to get in. He is absurdly wealthy, and he obviously kind of lied about not using banks. She quickly sends herself $100K with the warning that it might take 10 to 14 days. She's relatively good about cleaning up after herself, like deleting the messages and stuff like that, but I can't help but think that he would also be good at this kind of stuff. In the present, the cops discuss the crime that Oliver was involved in. When he was in high school, a student named Paul was murdered, and his friend Shane was arrested and convicted for it, but it's widely believed that Oliver actually did it. The whole case seems to be kind of tampered with from start to finish, as if Oliver's dad just used his money to make everything go away, except now Oliver has to like bounce around and move constantly because whenever people figure out who he is, he gets run out of town. Lee calls the number that was given to Oliver, and it is Jane Miller's phone number. So they leave a message and wait. While Oliver is at the gym, Jane is following him, and she comes and takes pictures very obviously. Like, I would be a little bit more sneaky if I thought I was dealing with a psychopath. Back home, Sierra calls Shyla and is like, I got the money. It'll be to you soon. So now all she has to do is wait until the transfer goes through, and then she'll be able to leave and come home. Shyla is like, I think you need to leave right now, especially if you're in danger. And Sierra is like, well, My job's not over yet. I might stay a little longer. I'm kind of liking it more than I thought I would. And then she dreamily draws a heart on the window, making it very clear that like whatever's going on is tiptoeing dangerously close into real feelings as far as she's involved. The cops are now thinking that the victim in the bathtub is maybe a woman, so it's looking very much like Oliver killed Sierra and or Jane Miller because she's somewhere in Boston and they can't find her. She drives the blue car that Oliver saw, so that day that he saw her behind him, she was definitely actually following him. And crazily enough, she lives in the same building. Someone vandalized her car and it's just been sitting in the parking garage, but when they go up to her apartment, nobody answers the door. Our paranoid king catches Jane watching him at the gym, so he follows her, calling the phone number to see if it'll ring, and it does. She gets into the blue car. So now he knows it's for sure her that's been messing with him. He stalks her car through the city in a real manic state, only to realize that yes, she does live in his apartment building. So now he can find her room. Girl, what were you thinking? Stop playing detective. This is how people get killed. He chases her through the parking garage to the elevator and she just barely gets away from him. This is when he destroys her car, and I mean he just mangles it with a dolly. And Kevin caught him because he saw it on camera. So yeah, Kevin's been lying the whole time. Oliver paid him off to keep quiet. And then Oliver pays him again so that Kevin will beat him up. In the present, Carl meets with Kevin again and is like, hey my man, there's a footage discrepancy. I know your ass is lying. I don't care what you did or didn't do. I just need you to tell me the truth because I need to solve this stupid case. He teases him like, I know it was you who pulled the fire alarm. And Kevin's like, whoa man, I did a lot of stuff, but I didn't do that. Okay, I didn't know about the body. So he's starting to crack. Sierra goes to Oliver's office for lunch anyway, even though he told her not to. And they end up hanging out, which gives her time to gather more info, but also Elliot's just really nice, so they get along. Elliot says that he didn't know about her, but she shouldn't take it personally because Oliver's always been private. He had a really difficult home life and weird relationships with his parents, and so now he just doesn't really let people in. She's like, oh yeah, he mentioned that something happened in high school, but he didn't say what it was. And Elliot's like, I'm not gonna tell you either, that's not my place. Oliver's home again after chasing Jane, and now he's mad that Sierra went to his office anyway. He's spiraling and he calls Dan to explain that Jane is stalking him and now he has proof, so he feels even more vindicated and the mania is just getting worse. Sierra comes home while he's on the phone with Dan. She originally thinks that he might be talking about her stalking him, which really scares her, but Dan is like, no buddy, you know, you're just not stable right now, you're not ready for relationships. If you're still seeing Sierra on top of this whole situation with Jane, you need to let Sierra go. You're clearly not ready, even if it's what you want. So Sierra just walks right into the bedroom and shuts the computer mid-conversation. Oliver's like, what are you doing? And she's like, he's clearly manipulating you to leave me. That's not fair. He's like, Dan is my therapist? Girl, he knows me. This is his job. And she's like, you pay him to know you. I'm right here. Why can't you just let me in? To his credit, he was immediately like, I barely know you. What do you want me to say? My favorite color is blue. My first pet's name was Charlie. Is that what you want? She starts turning on the waterworks and is just crying, saying that she doesn't want them to be strangers that just fuck. He's like, well, you don't respect my boundaries. Stay out of my closet and do not come to my office. I already have a stalker. I don't need another one. So then she hits him with, you think I'm a stalker? Okay, sure, dude, you're right. Everybody who meets you is obsessed with you. They just can't help themselves. This shit was frying me. It was so funny. She finishes it by being like, God forbid I just want to get to know you. And he's like, what do you need to know? Why can't I just have privacy? She points out that he's clearly just so self-absorbed that he can't even understand that she just wants to get to know him. And it's like, baby girl, you are lying. You lying to this boy. And I'm pretty sure he's lying to you too, but y'all, the manipulation's just gonna implode. You're gonna both explode. He finishes this conversation by going, okay, so I'm an avoidant and you're insecure. I'm so glad we cleared that up. That was one of my favorite usages of therapy speak in media to date. Good work, guys. Excellent storytelling. As he walks away, she's like, oh my God, you are so damaged. This was just a gold mine of funny. It was It was so good. Carl's divorce is getting messier back in the present day. I think I mentioned that like he's going through the divorce. His kid just shows up because the mom like didn't pick him up from school or something, and so he's like, yeah, she sent me here, and he's a like young kid. That is the part of the subplot that like doesn't really matter. Like, yes, his life is a mess. It doesn't matter. The more important part of that scene is that Lee finally explains what was going on with Linus. She says that he like ran away from potential charges, she tracked him down, and he had an alibi. So she was gonna leave him alone because she believed that he hadn't done anything in that situation. He wasn't a good guy, but in that specific first instance, she was like, he didn't do this, so I was gonna leave him alone. But then he started like sending her bribes anyway, almost to hint that like, oh, he did do it, the alibi was fake and they just didn't look into it enough. And instead of stopping it or telling anybody, she just sort of let it happen. And now she's all tangled up with him. Carl is upset by this because like, obviously, but also they're best friends. So he's like, okay, is it over? And she's like, yes, of course it's over. And he's like, great, well, I'm not gonna tell on you, so we just need to like let it go and move on. They go into Jane's apartment and it's like a perfect match for Oliver's, which means that the same company, Elliot's company, rented to both of them. Oliver just straight up goes to Jane's apartment to introduce himself. She's terrified, but then pretends to be like nice-ish to see if she can get him to like leave her alone and or talk to him. He's like, you know, I think you have the wrong guy. You know, you keep sending me letters with this St. Ledger last name, but my last name is Kennedy. And she's like, no, I don't think so. I think I know exactly who you are, Oliver. And I know what you did. I cannot imagine being so bold in the face of obvious crazy. Like, girl, he looks unhinged. Towards the end of the conversation, he goes, I don't know what you think this Oliver guy did, but it sounds pretty bad. She says, it was. And he goes, yikes, I hope he never finds you. 10 out of 10. No notes. Have Evan playing crazy for the rest of my life. I'm begging you. He's so good at it. From terrifying Jane in her apartment, Oliver comes home to Sierra and he's like, I'm sorry. I was so insane. Sierra's like, oh my god, it's okay, so am I. They really are season 2 of You. We get like a slow, intimate scene for the first time, which can only mean that, uh-oh, we're verging into feelings for both of them now. She admits to looking at his safe, but she says that she wasn't trying to steal from him. The safe was just like a weird metaphor for how closed off he is, and so she was just trying to like get to know him more and like break in. Girl, bye. How long did it take you to come up with that one? She promises that she can handle whatever is wrong with him, and he was answering her, but he falls asleep, and he ends up having like a weird sleep paralysis moment of dreaming that he's like stuck in the mattress, but then also underwater, and she's whispering to him like, Oliver, just tell me. Tell me what you did. What did you do? Tell me. And then she's like waiting above the surface of the water trying to get him out. But then it turns into a guy and he's saying Oliver's name. And then Oliver starts screaming under the water. Oh, I loved it so much. Bye. It was so good. Alright, we're halfway through. Episode 5 had a fun opening because this is sort of like a montage moment of them getting closer and closer and sort of acting like more of a real couple. They're settling into living together. So we see yoga and dinners, talking on the couch. By the time St. Patrick's Day rolls around in March, she is comfortable enough to like steal one of his little dosed chocolate bars, and she suggests that they take it together. She lies about having had it before and pitches it as like a good bonding moment for the two of them. He's not about being that out of control, but he does give in and take it with her. In the present, the cops can't find Jane still, and so maybe she's in the tub. Since Elliot also won't talk to them now, they're running out of people to get information from. Kevin offers to help, but Carl is like, get away from me, because now he doesn't trust him at all. While they're like exploring Jane's apartment, they find her office filled with investigation stuff about Oliver. Like, she has a full-on A-level layer dedicated to stalking this boy. Our couple goes out for St. Patrick's Day, and Sierra is definitely playing up how silly and high she is. You can't fool me, girl. I see right through it. We get an adorable parade montage There were so many montages in this episode, it was so much fun. Oliver seems a little off inside the crowd, but he's also definitely significantly higher than she is. Back home, Shyla and the mom are going out together as well. They're worried about her dad showing up because they do not like the father. He's out of the picture. I don't know if we mentioned that, but he's gone, but he's also an asshole. The money goes through. So now Shyla just has a casual 100K in her account from the St. Ledgers. While Carl and Lee are looking around, Jane just wanders back into the apartment completely fine. She explains that she's a reporter and she was stalking him for completely normal work-related reasons. She just wanted to give Oliver a way to talk for the first time because he's always avoided reporters. She's not upset about the car because she knew he was a psychopath when she started messing with him, so she was sure he would probably do something like that. At least it wasn't her face. She was putting pressure on him on purpose in hopes that he would feel like he had no choice but to control the narrative himself. That's a smart thing. Dangerous, but smart. She also tells them that Sierra is a con artist, and she was only after him for his money because she knew exactly who he was and stayed with him anyway, which she can't imagine any normal person doing. What's worse is Oliver didn't know that she knew. She says they were obsessed with each other, and she doesn't know which one of them was more demented. Jane was the one who pulled the fire alarm because she has pictures of the dead body. At the St. Patrick's Day parade, the drugs are really starting to kick in, at least where Oliver is concerned. Oliver's like worried about going into a bar, so they're gonna leave instead, and then they run into Elliot and he drags them inside happily. But when they get to the table, Jane and the wife are there together. The wife's name is Allison, by the way. Jane obviously met Sierra already, and we saw that happen, but they pretend not to know each other. Allison's really intense, talking about Jane being her dear friend and a reporter. They send Ollie and Elliot off to get more drinks, leaving Sierra alone at the table with them. This makes him spiral while he's walking over to the bar because he's afraid that the women are going to turn on him, and he has every right to believe that because the second he's out of earshot, they're like, "Girl, you need to get away from your boyfriend, okay? He killed someone." Sierra's like, "Yeah, I know." And they're like, "What do you mean you know?" And she's like, "I know what he did, and I want to be with him anyway." And they're like, "What the fuck?" Oliver is close enough with Elliot to just immediately tell him, "Hey man, Jane's been stalking me. Your wife is out to get me, and she clearly brought her here for an alternate agenda." Elliot's kind of drunk, and he's like, "Listen, dude, that may or may not be true. I'll look into it. Also, if you want a real relationship with Sierra, you are gonna have to tell her the truth." But Oliver is like, "I did that already, and it didn't go over well." The women are telling Sierra about the other girlfriend. Apparently, they were so long-term that Oliver was gonna propose to her, but he wanted to tell her the truth first, and then when he did, she ran away. So now Sierra is like, "Oh, excellent. So all I have to do is not panic, and he'll like me even more." Elliot does apologize for Allison's behavior, and he tells him that he'll tell Jane to stop and go away if he has to because this has definitely crossed a line. He says that he will always have Oliver's back and he will always be there for him. He just wants him to be happy. And then he like gently touches his hand, and it's like a little too affectionate, like tiptoeing on the line of like, ooh. But also Oliver is like really high at this point, so things are just getting real bad for him. Sierra runs to the bathroom to call her sister back. She's freaking out about the amount of money. Sierra drops the whole cover story and just tells her what she's been doing, which freaks Shyla out even more, because now Sierra is saying things like, "He's really not what we thought." This combo goes so badly because obviously the sister is upset that she's sleeping with him when it seems like he killed their brother, and Sierra is upset because she can't convince her to understand the situation from her point of view. Jane was listening to her, and when she opens the bathroom stall, she just pushes her way inside to intimidate her. She says that she wants Sierra to get what she wants, but she also wants to get her story. So now Jane wants her to lie on the record and sell her story for an article, then a book, then a podcast, then a movie. And if she doesn't agree, Jane threatens to just call the cops and tell them that Sierra stole money. Sierra is like, "You're really bad at your job, but your skin is so nice." And then she like grabs her by the throat and shoves her up against the bathroom door and is like, "Off the record, I did fall in love with the Narrow River Killer, but he didn't tell me anything because I already knew so much." So now Jane is scared of both of them for very good reasons. Elliot goes off on Allison for having brought Jane to town in the first place after he asked her explicitly to leave Oliver alone. She's drunk and really mean, ranting about how they shouldn't be protecting him. She's uncomfortable with Oliver being around them, and she always has been, but Elliot ignores it because he loves his dad. He explains that what happened with Oliver and Paul and Shane was an accident, and she's like, what do you mean? Meanwhile, across the bar, Oliver is tripping balls, waiting for Sierra to come out of the bathroom, begs to know what Jane said to her, and she's like, I think you know? And then takes him outside, where he proceeds to have a full-on panic attack. He's like off the rails at this point, being like, I can't talk to you about it, I can't tell you. If I tell you, you'll leave. If I tell you, you'll leave me. You're gonna leave me. You will hate me and you will leave. He's full-on crying at this point, and she's trying to calm him down, and he's just begging her not to say what Jane told her because he doesn't want to ruin things. She agrees and like puts his headphones in and plays brown noise to get him back because he cannot recenter himself. He's full on in a spiral. And then she gives him a whole monologue of all the things that she needs to say, admitting to her real name and the fact that they didn't meet on accident, but she came to find him on purpose to get what he owed her family. But now she feels like she doesn't know what happened for sure that day on the river. She can't tell if he's a monster or not anymore. But now that he can't be honest, she doesn't have the chance to try to understand him. She's more and more upset as the monologue goes on, and she tells him that this was all starting to feel really real to her, and she wanted to believe that they could work and be together, but now she knows they can't. Which is a real shame because she was really sure she could love him. 10 out of 10, the way they filmed this with him freaking out and slowly calming down while she's getting more upset and crying more and more, only for him to finally open his eyes and she's gone. Excellent. The cops arrest Jane once they figure out that she's the one who took pictures of the body and she pulled the fire alarm. She tries to throw Kevin under the bus for weird stuff he was doing in the apartment, like watching women in the elevators. He's a freak, but they don't care about that, and they just send her away. The autopsy's about to start, so they split up to go get things done, but that leaves Lee alone to call Linus again, so that's not looking great. Oliver is better now, but he can't find Sierra, so he's freaking out, like running around the bar looking for her. Instead, he runs into Allison, and they argue about how much she hates him. She calls him a parasite on Elliot, just like his father, who she also hated. He starts yelling back about how she's just jealous because Elliot loves him and his father more than he would ever love her. She's like, oh yeah, I'm so jealous of you. Your life is horrible, you're lonely, you have no real friends, no real relationships, nobody who actually cares about you except for people that are hiding all of your dirty, nasty secrets. I can't wait until the whole world finds out who you really are. He threatens her and she yells about how Sierra is also a liar, so they clearly deserve each other. And then he stalks off after her, following her down the street. Sierra is actually also tripping at this point. So she's wandering down the street, like hallucinating the graffiti and stuff. And when she gets back to the apartment, she starts frantically packing up her stuff to leave. Oliver chases Allison down to the opening of an alleyway where she gets hit by a truck and dies. Lee is being suspicious and gets into the car with drug dealer Linus once again. This is not good, like girl, get it together. Sierra still hasn't left the apartment, but she calls Shyla again to tell her that she's coming home, and then we see Shyla in her car on the way to Sierra. At the hospital, Carl begs for info from the ME, and we find out that the victim is a male. As Sierra is leaving, Oliver comes home and says, okay, I'll tell you the truth. We open with more of those underwater shots of the river. It cuts to Oliver splashing water on his face. He tells Sierra that he has not been honest with her, but he was just scared that if she knew the truth, she would leave. She says, it's okay. And he's like, nope, don't do that, not until you know everything. He explains that when he was younger, he went down to the river where kids from his school would hang out. He was there with his friends Shane and Paul. He says that things were kind of tense between him and Paul because he was kind of an asshole, so they were always bickering and picking at each other. But on this day, it got really bad and it got physical, and Paul and Shane started fighting, like actually fighting. Paul attacked him and he was definitely gonna hurt him. They ended up in the water and Shane started pushing Paul's head under again and again and again. And Oliver just didn't stop them. He wanted to just move on and forget that it had happened once it was done, but now he's lost every meaningful relationship in his life over this one mistake. He says that he feels like his life is empty and sad, but she came in and turned on the light. And he knows that he should have told her sooner, but he was terrified, and now he just hopes that they can move on from it together. She says, no, we can't, because you're a fucking liar. She grabs her stuff and starts rushing to leave, and he's full on JD spiraling like, what are you talking about, baby? What's wrong? What happened? Why are you mad at me? What's going on? Whatever it is that you're upset about, we can work it out. She's like, no, we can't. Don't follow me, and storms out. Carl calls Lee, and his name in her phone is K-Dog. I love them. I love them so much. The platonic soulmate dynamic will never not be perfect to me. Anyway, she's in the car with Linus, and things are really flirty. So this might be worse than she told us it was. Carl knows she's being weird. They're on the phone while Linus is like rubbing up on her. So he knows she's being weird and he's like, girl, where are you right now? And then when he hangs up, he can see her location because they're partners and they share locations. Girl, Linus is like, oh, work-wife problems. Oh no, we might get caught any minute. She begs him to leave her alone because she can't keep risking her career for whatever they are. And then he just finger bangs her in the front seat. Baby girl, Carl is 20 minutes away from you. Get out of the drug dealer's car. Sierra goes back to her apartment and finds that Shyla is there and she broke in. This whole family's crazy. She found her fake IDs, and so now she's putting together what Sierra's been doing. She begs her to understand that she was just trying to do what's right and make Oliver pay for what his family did to theirs. Shyla is having none of it though, because it was dangerous and more than a little crazy. Sierra just can't let go of the fact that Oliver does feel guilt, so he can't be a psychopath like everybody's been saying. That'll get you every time, girl. I'm not gonna lie, I get it. That part I understand. She explains that he is clearly suffering and has been suffering for what happened, just like they always hoped. Now Shyla knows that she's in love with him, so she pulls out a gun, saying she can't let her go to jail, so they need to handle this once and for all. Sierra is like, no! Oh my god, please let me take care of it on my own. But Shyla just doesn't believe that she can do that, and so she leaves her with the gun, but we don't know where she's running off to. Oliver's back at the apartment listening to all these saved voicemails from Sierra. Y'all don't use voice notes? Why aren't you answering her calls? I thought that was such a strange touch because they're literally like beep voicemail messages. His mom calls to talk about the fact that Allison died, and she makes it sound like a good thing. Like, you know, marriage is hard. I bet Elliot's kind of relieved that this is finally over. Oliver's very annoyed by this, and he's like, can you just be normal for like 2 minutes and act like this is a sad thing? Because Elliot's probably obviously very upset. And she's like, oh my god, you're right. I'm sorry. You are kind of close to him, aren't you? Anyway, I'm gonna send a representative of the club over to pay the family's respects. And Oliver's like, you can't come? You're not gonna come to the funeral? And she's like, no, why would I do that? In the car, Linus and Lee are halfway to hooking up, and she pushes him off and insists that they cannot keep doing this. He gets super aggressive and is like, actually, you're gonna go to Vice, and you're gonna tell them that I'm your informant, or I'll tell everybody about this weird little relationship we've been having. She's like, my guy, I'd rather shoot you in the face and go to jail then let this continue. The next time you see me, it'll be from behind bars. And then Carl yanks his ass out of the car and throws him in the street. Linus is like yelling shit and calling her names, and Carl like goes to beat him up and is just like, what did you say? Just say that shit again, I will press your reset button. I'm telling you, he was so funny. But Lee stops him and keeps them from like really getting into a fist fight and lets Linus get away. So now Carl knows that it was not just bribery, it was sex and a weird situationship. And he's connected to it now because he lied to their boss earlier and was like, no, she doesn't know anything. It's not a big deal at all. They start arguing about how they're gonna keep each other in check if they keep lying to each other. She's been projecting all of her issues onto him and giving him such a hard time about his life when in reality her life was falling apart and she was just doing it to feel better about herself. But she is sorry about all of it, and so of course he forgives her. Also snatches up Linus's chain from where it fell fell off during the scuffle. Oliver goes to Sierra's apartment to try to talk to her again, and he finds the place mostly cleaned out with her gone. He runs into a neighbor and finds out that she lied about the construction, and then he takes her key card to her supposed office building, and that whole thing is fake too. There is a girl up on one of the upper floors that looks suspiciously like Sierra, so she obviously used that as like a way to get in and out of the building because she assumed the guards would like recognize her. Now he feels more insane than usual. We cut to Sierra's mom pulling tarot, which I honest to God did not see coming. That amused me so much. I loved it. What a detail. And at first I thought they had her pull the death card as like a bad omen, because so often when they write these things they don't do it correctly, but I'm happy to say they used it right. And so she's calling Sierra to be like, hey, I did my daily pull and you know, it told me things were shitty and then I pulled the death card. You know what that means? Rebirth. Change is coming. Love to see it. Love to see it. My witchy heart, ooh, I was happy. Shyla goes to Dan's office and just absolutely blows up on him. She like barges in while he's with another client and is like, you guys need to get out of here. He's not a real therapist. He doesn't even have his freaking license. You need to leave. Apparently they have a restraining order in place and she hates him because of some unknown things that happened in the past. She tells him that he needs to get Oliver away from Sierra immediately because things have gone way too far and she loves him now. Now this was a weird filler scene where Sierra goes back to the bar from their first date and she meets an older woman and she admits basically everything about how she had been manipulating Oliver. She says that she had the power over him in the beginning, but now her heart's involved and so she feels like she can't handle it anymore. The woman warns her that lying dulls your emotions and each time you do it, it gets easier. Sierra is like, yeah, that explains Oliver, because he's so avoidant all he does is lie. He don't feel nothing. Then she admits that she's been thinking about either killing herself or Oliver, and she can't decide which way she wants to take things. The woman describes her as like clearly calculating, but super naive, and definitely a good person, which Sierra like immediately denies. She's like, I don't think so. Oliver goes home again and goes back through the stuff in Sierra's room. He ends up like disassociating on the bed with a film strip that they took together. So he's just like looking at their old pictures, disassociating, spiraling, really having a hard time. He's remembering old conversations and thinking about them talking about running away together and how happy they were. Dan tries to call him, but he ignores it. He takes his medicine again, hoping to like slip into the void for a little while. And while he's passing out, still in her bed, he finds the journal while he's falling asleep. So now he's seeing everything and like all of her little notes, but he's also like losing consciousness and going in and out. Dan calls again, and this time he manages to stumble into the bathroom trying to like wake himself up under the shower. And he took the notebook too, like, my man, that shit's gonna smear. She wrote it in pen. The cops go to talk to Paul's mother, but when she opens the door, it's not Sierra's mom. Oliver turns the phone on speaker in the shower, slowly passing out on the floor under the water. He can hear Dan, but it's like muffled and far away. Turns out, Sierra isn't Paul's sister. She's Shane's sister. Ayo, what a fun reveal. Guys, I love that so much. It was so sick. Oh, Dan's warning him that he is in terrible danger. Her whole family is dangerous. Sierra picks up the phone while Dan is saying, Oliver, do you hear me? Megan Martin is there to get revenge. And she just goes, oh, it's okay, Dan. He knows. This show, y'all. I'm so serious. It's so good. Okay, flashback episode time. Let's talk about the boys. We go back 16 years ago to the boys hanging out at the lake. Shane is complaining about how he's struggling to afford school. His parents are fighting all the time. He's very lightly jealous of Oliver. Like, it's not from a place of like maliciousness. You can tell that Shane is like a good kid. More than that, Oliver is a sweet kid. Like, he is saying how he wishes he had like annoying siblings and parents that were actually around, because like, yes, he has money, but his parents are never home and he's always alone. Paul shows up because Shane invited him, and Paul is an asshole. He's mean, and he definitely doesn't get along with Oliver, because if you think Shane picks on him, He's relentless about making fun of him for being like a sassy little prissy rich boy. He makes fun of his like perfect life and how his family's so shitty and secret. He thinks it's really lame that Oliver is so miserable at home that they can't even hang out in his big giant house and they have to waste time by the river like everybody else. Shane tries to calm things down, but Paul just like keeps going, and it slips out while he's ranting that his parents are also breaking up. When he says it, it's clear that he's like worried that they're gonna make fun of him, but Oliver, once again, good kid, is immediately like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that's horrible. I bet that's really hard. And Paul actually goes, yeah, thank you. It is. It sucks. It fucking sucks. And then Shane is trying to interject as well and like keep it going, and he says something about his mom hearing about it, and then Paul just goes off about how annoying Shane's mother is and how nosy she is, and she's the town drunk, of course she knows all the gossip. And so they just start really going at it because now they brought their mothers into it and it's getting heated. Oliver's just watching it like, guys, what in the world, knock it off. Paul fakes Shane out with an apology, and then when Shane actually apologizes and is like, okay, I'm glad we're cool, Paul just throws a bottle at him. So now they're fist fighting. Paul is punching Shane into the water, and we can see Shane like popping up and like shooting panic glances at Oliver because Paul is like drowning him in the water. And Oliver shouts for help a couple times and like tries to get them to stop by yelling at them, but that's not doing anything. So he's standing there and he's standing there and he's standing there, and then he just sort of snaps. He tackles Paul off of Shane, puts him in a headlock, and like alligator rolls him into the water. Paul is like easily twice the size of Oliver and Shane. He's a big dude. But when I tell you Ollie is crazy. So he holds him under and Shane drags himself out and then is just standing on the bank watching. We cut to a young Megan sitting at home alone on the couch, watching as Oliver drives Shane home. The boys are talking. Oliver wants to go ahead and come clean and say it was self-defense, but Shane is like, buddy, it wasn't self-defense. He wasn't attacking you, he was attacking me. They're gonna get us both in trouble. They're gonna say we did it on purpose. We need to just pretend like it didn't happen, okay? You never saw him after school because why would you? You're not friends. I'm gonna lie and say that I didn't invite him to hang out with us. Nobody's gonna know. It's extremely obvious that Oliver is gonna have a very hard time lying about this, but he goes along with it because it's what Shane thinks is best. He apologizes for having gone off the deep end, and Shane is like, it's okay, buddy. You were protecting me. You probably saved my life, okay? You did what you had to do. It's okay. Inside, Megan confronts Shane with all these questions, and he brushes her off, trying to get her to leave it alone. Oliver, like, very quickly spirals out about all of this. This is when he stops sleeping, so he's just like steadily losing it in school and at home until finally he breaks down and calls his dad. It was a really dark conversation because he like calls somebody and a lady answers the phone and she's like, hi, I don't have any time right now, maybe this weekend. And Oliver's like, no, you don't understand, it's really important, I need to talk to him. And she's like, okay, I hope he thinks so too. And then that's how he needs to get in touch with his dad. Casper calls him back and is like, what's wrong with you? What do you want? He admits immediately to killing someone. And his dad is just like, who? You're sure he's dead? Oliver's crying, trying to get through the story of what happened at the lake. And his dad latches on to Shane having been there. And he's like, okay, just give me a minute. I need to think. The next day, Casper gets him a lawyer. He takes him in to talk to the detective. The detectives are already treating him differently, like they're not writing things down or recording any of the conversations, so they're going to be able to say whatever Casper needs them to say. Oliver's story has completely changed. Now he's saying he was at home studying for a test and then he went to bed, and then all of a sudden around midnight, Shane woke him up freaking out, and that's how he found out Paul died. Shane's parents bring him in as well, and we see them freaking out in the parking lot, so their dad does suck. He's a complete dick. Megan's trying to be there for him, but he's pulling away from her too. Inside the jail, once Shane realizes that Oliver has turned on him, he freaking stabs him with a pin, and that's how Oliver got that scar on his ribs. But it wasn't very deep. It was barely like a little scratch. What we saw in present day is like a super gnarly, like jagged scar. So when he goes home from the police station, Oliver is alone in the house. He cuts himself with a kitchen knife. And I personally think that he kept doing that. And that's why the scar was so aggressive. Later in the school parking lot, Dan catches him quite literally bleeding out in the front seat of his car. He panics and tries to call 911, and Oliver is like, oh my God, please don't do that. So Dan just takes him back to his house, helps him get cleaned up, gives him some medicine. So Dan's been a little pill junkie this whole time. He wants to call his mom, but Oliver's like, I really don't want to worry her. I can deal with this on my own. It's what I always do. I will be fine. But he is not... But at this point in his life, he's not like a hardened avoidant. He's extremely anxious and sad and lonely. Dan sees that and is like, excellent news. I can make some money off this. So he calls Casper and is like, listen, my man, I talked to your son. He desperately needs help. And if you don't want me to do it, I'm so sorry, but I think I'm gonna have to turn him into the police because he seems like a danger to himself and the community. And Casper's like, right. How much is it gonna take for you to be quiet? So the entire time that Dan has been treating Oliver, it has been bankrolled by Casper in order to keep Dan from telling the truth. So that messy conversation that they had several episodes ago where Sierra was like, you pay him to care about you. That aged like freaking milk. It's getting really close to like, oh no, should we feel bad for Oliver? I would just like to remind everybody that he fully changed the story on Shane, okay? His best friend, and got that boy sent to jail. I don't feel bad for him. Young Oliver does seem to want to tell the truth. Everyone's convincing him that admitting the truth to Dan is enough, when it just isn't. Like, Shane and his family are so poor and they're gonna be destroyed by the courts. They're not gonna be able to fight against the St. Ledgers no matter what. Young Megan is trying to tell the truth about the fact that she saw Oliver bring Shane home, and so she knows that they were together before midnight, that they were both wet, something happened and they were both involved. But the mother thinks that Megan is lying because apparently she's the attention-seeking youngest child. Now, I don't know why Shane didn't bring it up. Maybe there's more going on than we know about, but like, why didn't he say, my sister saw me? Either way, they find Shane guilty and he goes to jail for the murder. Casper is calling Oliver more and more to check on him and also to make sure that he's doing this weird family tradition of holding their breath in the pool. So I guess we understand how he killed Paul now. I feel like this is a book, by the way. I didn't talk about that in the intro. We just jumped right into it. But this is based off a book, and I'm hoping maybe that was a detail more important to the book because they just put it in here and then we never discuss it again. Young Oliver isn't sleeping, which we already knew was a problem for him, so he's starting to crack under the pressure. He wants to call Shane and tell him the truth about what's going on. Then he thinks about going to see him in the prison, but when he tries to do that, Shane has taken him off the visiting list and says that he's not allowed to come. So he writes it all down in a letter, and Dan is really freaked out about this because Oliver didn't tell him about it first. He has this letter addressed to Shane ready to be sent out, and obviously that could blow everything up. So Dan lies and says that he'll take the letter, he'll go talk to Shane, he'll read it to him, and then whatever Shane does from there is on him. Oliver is so messed up here that he believes him. Of course, Dan just reads the letter in the car, figures out what Oliver is going to do, panics about losing his money. So he goes to see Shane, admits to counseling Oliver, saying that, you know, what he's going through is really difficult and he can only imagine how hard it is for Shane. And Shane is like, you know, I don't really see why Oliver would need help if he's the one that didn't do anything. Dan goes on and on about how seeing Oliver in pain made him worry about Shane, and he just really hopes that Shane's strong enough to handle what comes next. And then he tells him this story about another patient of his that basically like let his family be destroyed by how mean the whole town got and how negative the reputation got for everybody. And finally, that guy killed himself. And then after he did that, the charges were like let go and the family was able to live in peace. So unbelievably messed up. And the whole time Shane is listening to this like, I didn't know that was an option. So messed up. Just using all of his evil fake therapy stuff to get into this boy's head. So yeah, Shane killed himself in prison. Megan's family is absolutely destroyed. Casper calls Oliver like, oh God, that's terrible. Makes you think about the desperation in a choice like that, huh? Makes you think about all the choices we make. Oliver is sick over this happening. But Dan is there to control him into calming down, once again just sinking his little evil therapy claws into this poor kid. Shyla, who has been trying to hold the family together, figures out that Dan went to see Shane right before he died, so she confronts him. She wants to know what he did and what he said because Shane was doing better. He was pulling himself out of the depression, he was going to classes, he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do with his life inside prison, and Dan is like, oh girl, I didn't do anything, you know? We should really look at your family's life and how fucked up all of you guys are and how poor home lives lead to this kind of aggression, and then these kids make these mistakes that they don't know how to handle, and then they just snap under the pressure. It kind of looks like he's getting to her, and then she just straight up punches him in the face. Excellent. Excellent choice. That is why he has the restraining order on her, though. I'm starting to hope Dan's the one in the tub. Megan and Shyla thankfully get closer in the wake of this tragedy. Their mother is obviously fading away very quickly, but they're holding on to each other. Megan wants to know where Shane went when he died, and Shyla just says that whatever happened, she just hopes he's not in pain anymore. Megan finally admits to her that she saw Shane that night with Oliver, and Shyla is shocked because, like, what do you mean nobody even told her? It's such a mess because, like, we see Shyla have the realization that everything could have gone down differently if that piece of information had been involved, but she tells Megan not to worry about it because obviously if he didn't speak on it, it means that he was trying to protect her, protect the family. He knew that the St. Ledgers would just make everything worse. So she begs Megan not to let it derail her life because she doesn't want to lose her too. In the present, Shyla is alone on that couch now. She's home when Carl and Lee come over to ask her about the murders. She says that she doesn't know where Megan lives or where she is or if she's ever coming back. We cut to Oliver waking up on the bathroom floor, now with a blanket and a pillow. Sierra is sitting beside him, but now he obviously knows she's Megan. She tells him right away that she saw him the night Paul died, and she knew he was lying, but there was nothing she could do about it because she was just this insignificant little kid and his family was so stupidly powerful. She explains how her life spun out of control and she wanted to hurt him, so she made her little revenge plan. Then she got to know him, and she saw how lonely he was, and she realized that she didn't have to do anything to ruin his life. He was already doing it all on his own. He says he really did want to tell her the whole truth for the first time, and he's so sorry that he didn't. Shane was his absolute best friend, and none of them deserved what happened, but he 100% killed Paul on purpose to protect Shane. She thanks him for finally admitting it because she already knew that that's what happened, but she really needed to hear him say it. They're both crying at this point, and she goes, "And I'm so in love with you." To which he says, "I'm so in love with you too." And they hug on the bathroom floor. What is going on? I feel like I'm in a fever dream. Anyway, we cut to the present day where the cops are coming back to Boston, still bickering. They can't decide if they think Oliver and Sierra ran away together or if one of them killed each other. And then their car gets shot up and they both have to duck. They were bickering about her playing Tom Petty in the car, and the end credit song is "You Got Lucky." Oh my god. Bye. I hate when people are funnier than me. Okay, last episode, let's fucking go. We get a gorgeous shot of the fall trees up above, like a drone footage shot from 137 days ago. Megan's family have the same pumpkin salt and pepper shakers that me and my husband have. They're losing the house, while Sierra is like creepily looking up pictures of Oliver online and starting to stalk him. All the while, Dove's version of Do I Want to Know is playing in the background. We follow her as she moves to Boston to watch him, starting her new fake life for him as a trap piece by piece, right up to the moment where they meet at the grocery store. We get a fun montage of all their previous moments together while we're also watching the flowers rot and the food on the table mold and the body decay. Thank God Carl and Lee are fine. They assume that Linus must have done this, so now Lee's kind of freaking out because she's like, we're always going to be in danger now. He's going to keep coming after me until he kills me. Carl is like, you know, maybe we can figure this out because you did say he sells drugs to the kids at the Crossings, which is the apartment complex. So maybe there's a connection we just haven't found yet. We go back to right after Sierra and Oliver have told each other everything, and Dan is frantically coming over to see him, so maybe he is the one in the tub, a girl can dream. They're giggling at the bar, talking over everything. Oliver's like, so do I have to call you Megan now? And she's like, no, I think I'm more of a Sierra now, actually, anyway. He has all of these fragmented memories of her growing up. Like, they knew each other. He was best friends with her brother. So they have all these weird memories of like he remembers her sister, he remembers her mom, he remembers their house. It's a mess. It's like oddly nice, but again, what the fuck are we watching? What is going on? Then Dan shows up, banging on the door, freaking out. Oliver lets him in and he immediately starts yelling about why is Sierra there, what's she doing here? And Oliver's like, Dan, she's my girlfriend. She lives here, duh. So now Dan's being really shitty. Crazy choice for a man who knows damn well how unstable Oliver is. Just start punching holes in their relationship. And then holes in Oliver himself, reminding him of all of his weaknesses. Sierra excuses herself because she hates Dan and the way that he talks to Oliver. Dan wants to talk and like keeps trying to manipulate him more, but Oliver's finally seeing clearly for the first time in 16 years. And so he refuses to talk to him and fires Dan on the spot. He says that Dan is the one that kept him isolated all these years. He kept him scared so he would think that he needed Dan in order to live a functioning life. But none of his life has been functioning. Now Sierra knows him for who he really is, and she's choosing to stay. Dan is like, are you a dumbass? She's here for your money, bro. And Oliver's like, so are you, my man. You are invested in my mental instability, but we are done now. I am done with you. Get out. And Dan is like, oh, okay, no worries. But I must tell you that if that's how it's gonna go, I suddenly feel compelled to go to the police. He starts waving the letter around. So now Oliver and Sierra know that he didn't even read the letter to Shane. Dan goes on and on about how his intentions are pure. And now, without the guidance of a therapist, he can see clearly that Oliver is a danger to himself and the community. He threatens him with recordings of all their previous sessions, and Oliver's like, my man, why are you doing this? Do you want me to go to prison? Instead of just leaving, Dan turns around and starts delivering a villain monologue. So we all know where this is going. The way he's just standing there as if there are not two crazy people in the apartment ready and willing to kill him. Whatever happens, he deserves it at this point. He says that there must be some value to all the tools he's given Oliver. $5 million? $9 million? What about the value of his silence? Sierra shuts him up by smashing a sculpture into the back of his head. Yes, bitch, doing the Lord's work. He bleeds out in front of them, gasping Oliver's name, begging for help, and it was actually kind of gross, I'm not gonna lie to you. Now, in the present, the cops have figured out that Dan is a fake therapist, and they're realizing that he was licensed under Casper, but none of it was real, so he was just faking everything. Even though the case is coming together, Lee is still freaking out about how now she's gonna have to tell their boss about what happened with Linus, so she's gonna be the one that gets kicked off the force, and Carl is like, why would you have to tell her? Also, why were you doing it at all? And she's like, come on, buddy. You should know better than anybody. And he's like, right. Sick of yourself? And so they commiserate on being miserable for a minute before he pulls out the gold chain. He's like dangling it in front of her and he's like, I'm gonna need your help with something before you go. I snatched this off your bitch-ass boyfriend. She freaks out, like, don't call him that. Also, why do you have it? Oh my God. All he'll say in the moment is that he might need it later for something. So it's clear he's got an evil little plan brewing in his mind. We go back to Sierra and Oliver sitting in front of Dan's dead body, just looking at it. She's like, okay, so what do we do? And he goes, I'm thinking I need to make a phone call. I know a guy. And she says, I know a guy too. Except it's a woman. She calls Shyla, who is actively hooking up with a guy outside the bar. But when she sees that her sister is calling, she's like, unhand me, sir. I need to take this call. And she gets out of the truck and just starts talking to Megan. 10 out of 10, big sister energy. I don't answer my phone for anything, but I love to see it. Sierra tells her that she's killed someone, and Shyla just takes it in stride. She's like, all right, well, now we got to get rid of the body. Do you remember that guy who got in trouble for stealing from the lobster traps? I'm going to tell you how they got rid of him. I loved that detail, that the way that they fabricated the murder scene was Shyla's idea. Absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? So Oliver and Sierra handle everything under Shyla's instructions, and then the girls say goodbye, knowing that obviously Sierra can't come home now. He's having the same realization, but he's obviously lived through this multiple times. So he's trying to like keep her calm and focused. Now they totally trust each other, so he's giving her access to the safe and helping her pack, totally letting her in. He makes his phone call saying that yes, he needs another full clean slate, but this time he's bringing a friend. He explains that the best thing they can do is leave everything behind, so he gives her his suitcase and is like, take this, put everything that you absolutely can't live without inside of it. The rest we're just gonna buy again when we get where we're going. He does also say that he thinks she should say goodbye to her sister just in case they can't see each other in person again for a while. So she plans to leave and then come back and meet him at a private airstrip around 5 p.m. He gives her the bag and she's like, this is your suitcase with all the stuff from his safe inside of it. So all the money, the fancy watches, all of his important documents. He flat out goes, it's okay, I trust you. Now I feel like I'm hallucinating. What is going on? Oh, this is what most of us wanted from season 2 of You. It's so much better when they just lock in and accept it. Oh my God. Kevin and Carl are together again, watching the footage from the apartment complex. Cute little mostly pointless scene, but this one was really funny. Kevin is like interested in being a cop, kind of, and Carl admits that he didn't always want to be one, but Lee did. And she's always been like super sure of herself and sure of her purpose, which is why he's trying so hard to help her keep the job. Kevin admits to knowing Linus, but he says that he's not totally sure if that's where Oliver was getting his drugs. Carl promises that if he can find Linus on the surveillance tapes, he will make him his CI. And Kevin's like, oh, could I get paid for that? And Carl just goes, damn it, Kevin. You're so predictable. Oh, it was so funny. They had me giggling. Oh, it was one of my favorite moments. Follow Shyla and Sierra to a church so they can say goodbye to each other. This whole thing sucks all around, but I really felt bad for Shyla because now she's losing both her siblings. She doesn't feel bad about Dan's death at all because obviously she knows the stuff about Shane meeting with him before he died. Sierra still doesn't know that, and Shyla keeps it from her because she doesn't know exactly what got said anyway, and she doesn't want to burden her with that, but she's happy that he's gone. Megan explains how Oliver did try to tell the truth more than once, but Shane never knew that because Dan stopped it from happening. She says she's not trying to make excuses for him, but she does feel better now that she doesn't hate him anymore. Shyla really doesn't understand how that is working, but she knows that Megan did what she had to do. She just wishes that she didn't have to leave and start over. But she does think that their mom is going to understand because this is the only way that they all survive without anybody having to go to jail. Sierra wants to run away with her, but Shyla knows that that's not going to work. She just promises to come see her once they get settled. Oliver, meanwhile, goes to say goodbye to Elliot. He apologizes for all the stress that he put on him and Allison, and admits that maybe Allison was right about him all along. Elliot is like, what is going on? But we don't get to hear the whole conversation because the camera pans out and we just see them from across the water talking, but Elliot like reaches for him and is clearly trying to comfort Oliver while he tells him something. Carl has lost his damn mind. He's sneaking into the evidence room, planting that necklace. Lee is coming clean to their boss about the sneaky relationship stuff and also the fact that he is now hunting her for sport. But thankfully, the boss doesn't give her too much shit about it, and she's like, you know, you're really good at your job, you both are. I'm gonna keep your name out of internal affairs, but you do need to pass off the case now because Linus is a suspect. Oh, is he now? How'd that happen? Cut to Carl and his kid hanging out in the backyard. Lee comes over to bother them. Things are clearly getting better. They got the case passed off, so now somebody else is putting all the weird pieces together, and it's an idiot who's not going to think twice about Linus's stuff just randomly showing up in the evidence bag. She thinks it was totally Sierra who killed Dan because she obviously didn't want to lose Oliver. This leads to them talking about losing each other, and she says that she just really needs him to go ahead and tell her if he's gonna leave or not. He's like, girl, you wanna know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this hot dog on the grill, and I'm gonna burn it, because that's how you fucking like it. Then I'm gonna put the bun on the grill, and I'm gonna burn that too, because you're fucking weird. And you always get what you want, don't you? And she's like, yes, I do. Please don't forget it. And then they giggle together. Oh my God, they were so cute. I'm so glad that they're gonna stay partners. Incredible. Elliot takes Oliver to the police station. He wants to take responsibility for Dan's murder so that Megan can go home and back to her life the way she was always meant to. Elliot tries to convince him that this time It's really not his fault, and he does not need to do this, and he should not make amends for the past when he's finally getting the life he's always deserved. Little messy there with the messaging, but it's fine. Oliver goes to walk inside and then freezes inside the double doors. Sierra's at the airport waiting on Oliver. He's running late, so the flight attendant is like, do you want to go ahead and board by yourself? And she's like, no, I'm gonna give him a few more minutes. Also, where are we going? And he's like, oh, Reykjavik. And she's like, Iceland? Right, okay. Our girl is panicking, tapping her foot, shaking a little bit, wide-eyed. And then thank God Oliver shows up behind her and is like, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. You ready to go, babe? They have a very intense hug. He tells her about the little secret family compound that they're gonna go to. It's like off the grid and remote. And she's like, that sounds like hell actually. And he's like, okay, so where do you want to go? The new cop connects the murder back to Linus, and that's who gets blamed for Dan's death. Carl and Lee are off investigating new murders. Sierra's mom is better now. She's back at work, she's healthy and happy, they're in the house that they grew up in. She gets a letter from Sierra in the mail saying that she hopes she can forgive her the way she's finally forgiven Oliver, along with a check for millions of dollars. And then we see Oliver and Sierra off on a beach together during a storm, because of course. She says he ignored every red flag in order to follow his heart. And she ignored the past, hoping that the future could be different. They were naive to think that all their wrongs could make a right, but this time they did. The last line in the letter is, everyone calls me crazy, but hey, let's be honest, so is he. And then she sits up on the towel and they have a kid. She's holding a baby. I was so unprepared for the child. Oh my God. His name is Shane, please. She's like, sometimes I look at him and I'm like, are you crazy like your mommy? Or crazy like your daddy? I wish I was making this up. It's so funny. They're just one big, happy, unhinged family. The final shot is them kissing on the beach before running away as the storm rolls in. Oh my God. What? So this is the thing, right? I obviously love a villain redemption story, and I have mixed feelings about the ending because what do you mean it was a self-defense killing? Why was he so crazy in the beginning? If you didn't, I don't know how to feel because I wanted him to be evil. It's pitched to us like he is the bad guy, and then it kind of becomes maybe she's the bad guy. And so then you're like, what's going on? And so then when you find out that he's actually not really the bad guy, she still is, because she still decided to stalk him and do the revenge plan, right? So then she doesn't really get a redemption arc unless you count her killing Dan for him. I don't know. I think they're both kind of unhinged. Truly crazy work. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. The twist of her being Shane's sister and not Paul's sister, the way it was done was so great because I tend to catch things like that. Like, I'm very detail oriented when it comes to shows, especially when it's like a whodunit murder situation, but they played it up so well where it really, really seemed like she was related to Paul. Like, that was just like the vibe they were giving off. That was probably my favorite part because that reveal is just so delicious. And then there's all the stuff in the beginning where he's so weird and intense because that kind of goes away. Like, the more comfortable he gets with her, the more soft boy he is, which is fine because I guess that's how he was in the beginning too. Like, when we see young Oliver, he's kind of adorable and sweet, and Shane is like clearly also adorable and sweet, and they're just like the nice guys, friends with Paul, and Paul's an asshole. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I feel like maybe they didn't give me enough of his soft side for me to believe that that's his true personality, so it felt more like they were springing it on me. Like, surprise, Oliver's nice. And I was like, are you sure? Because he was real unhinged for like 4 episodes. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. Oh, that one fight that they have, that was good. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!